This week on Buffering, we are joined by Roger Lewis, Vice President of Product Management and Business Development at GVTC. Roger has been with GVTC for over 20 years and now leads all product development within the organization. If a new solution is coming to market, then Roger probably has his name all over it. Welcome, Roger. We're really excited to have you here.
Hey, thank you very much, Gabe. It's great to be here. Zach, thank you so much. I don't know if we're going to break the new heights, Taylor Swift unveiling today, but I appreciate the invite to Buffering for sure. So I appreciate it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we could not go, this week without talking about what Taylor Swift just announced on a podcast. And I don't know, I think we could be pretty competitive.
All right, we'll do it.
I feel like you might be setting your sights a little bit too high, Zach. I love the enthusiasm, but yeah, it might be a little rough.
Well, hey, Gabe, I'm pretty optimistic here.
I love it. Well, Roger, I'd love it if you could share just a little bit more about your history at GVTC and your role. And then we definitely want to get in some details today. One of the big reasons we wanted to have you on the podcast is, again, as I said, you're so involved with bringing new products to market. And this is something that I think historically broadband service providers have struggled with a little bit, just to be blunt. So I love the idea of having you share a little bit of those best practices and getting into the details of how to bring some of these new solutions to market. But before that, yeah, if you could give us just a little bit of history and your role, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I'm going on 20 years here with GVTC this year, which is pretty phenomenal. Right now in my current role, it's I would say there's kind of three legs to the stool. One you mentioned is our product development, really focusing on maintaining our current products, right? Understanding what the customers want and how we position our current products, and then what's next, what's coming next, what's the industry looking at from a strategic perspective. Now I'd say the other leg is our newly developed business development group, which we're looking at edging out. We're looking at, we know the multifamily space has really grown in our industry. And so we're looking at how do we expand our service territory in new subdivisions, new multifamily. And then also kind of the third and last is our wholesale group. And, one of the kind of cool niches that doesn't really get talked about too much. It's we have we have connectivity all throughout Texas and rural Texas. We have a lot of great partners, and we have customers like AT&T and Verizon and them connecting cell sites in different rural areas. And so I'd say those are kind of the three main areas I'd say within my in my role now today. We're talking about products and product launches. We were kind of talking about that, not that we're definitely not the experts, but I started going, golly, when we launched Arlo, that was in 2022, we launched our IPTV platform about a year later, upgraded our network so we can launch multi-gig, which just kind of launched here in the last couple months, launched the outdoor Wi-Fi as a great value add. And so, yeah, we definitely are on this path of what's coming next. So yeah, it's been a fun ride the last couple of years.
Well, that's awesome, man. And that's a lot of new products in a relatively short period of time, especially, like I said, in comparison to, some other providers that we, see are a little bit hesitant on that. And I know actually probably a perfect transition to Zach to some of the conversation I know you wanted to have with Roger.
Yeah, Gabe, I think that's a great point. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the podcast, in addition to competing with the New Heights, of course, is just to talk about some of the fear a lot of broadband service providers have in launching new products and services into market. Why do you think there's such a hesitance there?
Man, that's a great question. I've talked to a lot of different providers, and we've been extremely, I think, blessed with some successful launches. Not everyone sees the dumpster fire ones, because there's definitely been a few. But talking to several, I think there's a few different things that you can definitely pinpoint. And I think it starts with leadership. I think it starts with, are we all on the same page that we want to go launch something new, that we understand what the value of broadband is and how a new product on top of that can really bring value to consumers, add revenue and those type of things. So I definitely think one is a leadership. Are we willing and ready to do something new? And if so, what? And then kind of right underneath that is who owns it. I do think sometimes, especially in smaller service providers like ours, is you might have the person or a few people who are like, man, very innovative and forward thinking, but they may not own the decisions to move it forward. And so sometimes what you find is there's a kind of a battle between, do we do this or don't we do this? And it takes a long time to get there. And then I think what you mentioned, Zach, is sometimes it's just fear of change, the fear of something new. I haven't done it before, so how do I do it? I don't really have experts, but what do I do to get there? How do I get there? And I think it's, what we all always said, right? That analysis paralysis. And sometimes you just get a standstill because it's a little bit fear of change.
One of the things that I've seen, working with you all over the years is that you do start with that leadership, making sure that we're hitting on it from a leadership perspective, but also really aligning the entire organization around a specific solution. And, something you said there too, it really does start with why for the entire organization, right? Why are we doing this? So what? Okay, so we have this new thing. So what? Could you talk to us maybe just a little bit about how you've brought teams together? Maybe just give an example or two of like, hey, we're getting ready to launch this new thing. Here, we brought all the teams together, and these are the specific, activities we went through to make sure that everybody's ready for that conversation.
No, you bet. And I'll kind of use Arlo as the example. I think, that was a nice, really home run for us. And so it's kind of nice to talk about how we got there because it was something new. For those that don't know, and I probably should have talked a little bit about this on GVTC, but right, we have 4 core products, which is our broadband, telephone, cable TV, and we're a security dealer. We've been a pro monitored security dealer for over 30 years. So, when we start talking about Arlo, I think one thing that we have to do is, man, keeping the pulse on the industry, what consumers want. And really what we were trying to grow our smart security, kind of you bundle that with broadband and, what do consumers like? And man, we just kind of saw it kind of flatline in the industry as a pro monitor. So we started exploring what's new. And that's when COVID, 2020, Vivint, Simply Safe, all those kind of products started really hitting the market hard. And we just went out and started figuring out, well, how do we compete? What's adding value? And here comes Arlo, right? And man, I remember it was when you talk about, you did all the research, because I think that's part of it. I think from a product development perspective is, we own and have to do the market research. So the company can understand the why. Why are we even doing this, right? And we'll talk a little bit about some data stuff and financial stuff, but you kind of start there to figure out at the core of broadband, what other value can I grow on top of it, right? So Arlo comes out. We did all the exploration. We did all the testing. We probably tested it against 5 different other products. And we had a very large kind of test plan that we did to see which one worked the best. So Arlo came up above. And I remember the biggest question is everyone's like, why on earth would anyone buy Arlo through GVTC? And we're sitting here going, dude, they can get that at Home Depot and Best Buy, or they can just buy it online. Why are they going to do it from us? And it goes back to that value proposition. We knew that consumers wanted it. We knew that they had to have great Wi-Fi and broadband with it, no matter what they do. But what we knew was they didn't all do it really well. Not everyone wants to go switch out, wires in your doorbell or go climb a ladder and go hang a camera. Yep. So we said, listen, we can install it for them, right? We'll do it for them, offer the white glove service. We'll install it. We'll do it for them, help them set up their app. We'll climb the ladders, figure out where it goes. And guess what? We're going to support it, maintain it. And if it breaks, we'll replace it. as long as you're subscribing and that's bundled with your broadband. And I think that the market research, kind of that business case process, and you can prove it to everyone. And so then everyone's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And all of a sudden, because of the strategic leadership on top of that, the whole company got behind on a really great launch of the product. We've done that a couple
Yeah, that makes
times.
sense. So Roger, one of the things I definitely wanted to talk to you about, especially given my nerdy accounting and finance background, I just can't help myself. You know, I know one of the things you touched on there was financial analysis and analyzing those products as you're bringing new services and new solutions to market. I know you work really closely with finance on these models. You know, why do you think it's so critical, you know, as that product owner to deeply understand the addressable market, the gross margins, and kind of that changing competitive landscape? I'd love to hear just a little bit of your perspective on that and how you tackle that.
No, yeah, I love that. I mean, and what's a buffering episode without geeking out on financial models, right?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But no, you know what? The data analysis really became pretty critical to us. The more competitive market, or the more competitors came in, right? You're talking about addressable markets or rooftops, you know. And the thing is it's kind of a, you know, you kind of touched on the addressable market or rooftops, the, you know, gross margins, right, and the competitive analysis. When you kind of combine all three of those, what it really tells you is, look, in this market, right, what kind of penetration do we need in order to hit our gross margins? Are we going to even make money in order to take all the support, to launch it, to do all of those? And what are our competitors doing? We have an amazing finance team who has really worked, I don't know, tons to help build financial models for us. So where I used to kind of get all the crazy idea guy, now we've actually partnered with them to really put it into models and go, look, this may or may not work for this exchange that we have. But you know what, over here where there's 20,000 rooftops, man, this product will look really good because right now we know exactly who they are and what they are. So it really helps drive what kind of penetration between a new promo, a bundle, or a new product. And what do we think the penetration is going to be in this market? And we may not launch that in a completely different exchange because we know we can't bundle it or it won't work. We won't hit our price points. And so, and of course, understanding where the competitors are. But we've done a lot of work over the years to really build this up. So they've given us all the levers we need to pull to figure out what's going to work in which market with what products and what price points. And it's either going to give you a green light or a red light, right?
Yeah, totally. This kind of reminds me, Zach, of the podcast we did a couple of months ago where we were talking about the CMO and the CFO being best friends and, you know, bringing those two groups together because so much of what you're talking about there, Roger, is, yeah, I've got this crazy idea. I want to bring this new thing to market, but I need to have the support of the finance team so that as I go to leadership, to go back to the conversation you were talking about earlier around having leadership aligned, if everybody at that leadership level isn't aligned because they don't believe in the financial model, what's the likelihood that it's going to be successful?
No.
Not great.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, in you know, depending on the structure of the company too, it's sales. And we've kind of changed what we've done too. It's when we look at our business cases, I mean, it's got to be product, sales, and finance. Number one is what's the product, what's the pricing, what's the competitive analysis. And now it's, hey, sales, can you actually sell this dang thing? You know, what are you going to do?
Totally.
What's your projections? So we'll go 12 rounds every now and then about what I think they can sell versus what they think. And then when you run it through the business case and we go, you know what, this makes really good sense for GVTC. Then we kind of move to, great, how do we operationalize it? And so it kind of starts with, why waste a bunch of company resource time trying to figure out how to operationalize it if we can't prove in the business case first? And I think kind of all of that meshed together has really helped us kind of get there a little bit sooner because everyone's bought in. If we think we can sell it, we've got a good product, and it's past the finance kind of pre-qualifications, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
One of the conversations we had recently here was around bundling and the significant impact it can have on churn. And there's a famous or an infamous, I'm not sure which, quote in the broadband business that there are two ways to make money in this business: bundling and unbundling. And I feel like we've kind of come full circle on this, but can you share at a high level here the positive impact you've seen from selling your services over the top of your existing broadband?
No, absolutely. And I think, anyways, I think you hit it great, Zach. It's crazy how these things just come in these cycles, right? I mean, everything was a bundle, but you had the famous triple plays with phone and cable TV. We know the market's changed. Break it apart. Only sell, gives customers choice, give them now it's no, bring it back together so they can get discounts. But I think that only really honestly helps when you have the right products that add value to them. Gabe, I know, and I know I've said this many times. When we launched Arlo, we got so excited about things, right? We're like, man, we're bringing bundles back, Oh, Justin Timberlake. But man, New Heights, Justin Timberlake, we're hitting it all.
I know, we're getting all the music hits in here, man.
I'm telling you. But you know what? And this is why partnering with Calix, honestly, really does a great job, because not everyone's a security dealer where we can put in a pro monitor video camera. I know a lot of companies our size don't even offer TV anymore, and they've gone to maybe some streaming or maybe none at all. Phone lines, unless you're hosted PBX and providing SMB services, today's day and age, we're not selling phone lines. The great thing with really the Calix ecosystem, right? If you can provide the broadband and the Wi-Fi, the options you have, whether it's an Arlo, whether again the outdoor Wi-Fi, any parental controls, anything like that, and the list can kind of go on. So even if you're right there with these products, the one thing that we found, it's a standalone broadband customer. When we went back and looked, they would last probably about 13 or 14 months on a standalone broadband, because it's too easy to change whenever the price gets sticky. They want to try out the new guy. But once we bundle that product, whether it be an outdoor Wi-Fi or an Arlo, and the Arlo is really where all the data comes in, is they're here for 24 plus months. And I say 24 plus, it's because we haven't even hit Arlo 3 years yet. Right. It's really been insane. We've bundled that product, and I mentioned we've been a dealer for 33 years. We have about 5,000 to 6,000 pro monitored accounts, customer accounts. We're not even 3 years into Arlo, and we've already surpassed 8,000 customers with Arlo. And if you want Arlo, you have to be on our broadband and you have to be on our Wi-Fi. Yeah. So that way we can fully support it, offer the white glove service, and that value that it has and that it's brought to them, man, it's extended that life cycle. And we'll be honest too, right? Sometimes they just want it because they get to double their speed and get a little bit cheaper broadband, whether they really want it or not. But the best part is we got it inside the home, whether it's today or a month from now. If they install it, the tech install it, they can see the value of it, and then it's just harder to break. So standalone broadband, about 14 months to 24 plus months, if you have a bundled product. And that's kind of what our data have showed so far. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we set out the last couple of years when we had a full-on company strategy of advancing broadband and beyond. We made a full-on pledge to how do you get customers with bundled products, and it's done really well for our IPTV services, as well. So, anyways, it's been great for us, and we see it in the data. Better ARPUs, longer revenue, customer lifetime value has been a tremendous difference.
Well, I think there's a couple of really brilliant things that you did, Roger, when you were launching this. And I was so happy to get to kind of see this from the sidelines, because I was working with you guys fairly closely when you were bringing this to market. But a couple of the things you really did that I thought were absolutely brilliant were bundling Arlo into the broadband service package, but only at specific service tiers. So that way you gave your customers who are on some of those quote unquote legacy service tiers another compelling reason to upgrade. And another thing that you mentioned earlier, I meant to talk about this when we were going through it, but it's a perfect time to kind of just talk about it now, is you lowered the barrier for entry from a cost perspective for people to move on to a quote unquote security solution too. If you mentioned that you can go buy Arlo at Amazon or Best Buy or, whatever, right? Or
Right.
There's lots of different places you can go do that. Well, that may be like $400 or $500.
Yeah.
That's a big cost for a lot of people. All of a sudden, if it's $14.99 or $24.99 a month, and you've lowered the barrier of entry significantly from a cost perspective for people, not only can you make better margins in the long term, but you've just given a compelling reason for people to change. So I thought those were really interesting ways that when you went to launch this, that, I mean, from the numbers you just shared, seem to have been wildly successful.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gabe. That's such a great point. When we started, that was the strategy. We saw that we had, I think at the time, let's just call it 20,000 or so, standalone broadband customers that at that time that were on 250 megs or below. And when we launched this, to your point, we grandfathered 250. We started our entry level, speed at 500. So we marketed, our marketing team did a phenomenal job. Our sales team did, right? Is you market to all of them and you go, hey, why don't you double your speed at Arlo for about the same price you're already paying? And that's really what took off. Because, if the typical acquisition prices have discounts, and over time, those tend to drop off. And at that point in time, it was basically, we had so many customers who were paying about the same rate. And we go, instead of dropping them or discounting, add a product, add value, double their speeds. And it took off. And it was a really great strategy. And I think our marketing group did a phenomenal job really getting that out to the public. Sales did great. And you know what? It was a phenomenal churn tool that we had. The price jumpers all of a sudden was like, well, wait, before you do that, why not this? And again, those customers now are 2-3 years in,
Well, it's such a brilliant strategy, right? To, like you said, rather than, there is pricing pressure there's pressure on prices in our industry every day. Yeah. That's just a reality of the situation of the broadband service provider space. But adding more value helps you protect those, higher level ARPUs that you have. And it's a tried and true strategy for a reason, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, sort of speaking of data, and I know we talked about this a little bit, and I know this is a bit out of your purview, but you work closely with the marketing team, as you just mentioned, developing these ideal customer profiles. So I know you all have done a lot of work on personas and thinking about what service or what services actually fit in each one of these personas. Could you talk to us a little bit about the process and how you kind of landed on these different personas, and then how you're fitting the right product to that?
No, yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, it was, you want to talk about, right, this old telephone co-op, out here in rural Texas, all of a sudden they're like, personas, what are you talking about? The best thing about this exercise, if you talk to anyone internally that's been here several years, they're like, man, they don't want this stuff. They're all old. They're all older. We're on farmers and ranches. It's rural Texas.
Oh my gosh, Roger. Zach, how many times have we heard that? My gosh.
9 out of 10 customers, we know our demographic. They're very old. And then of course, when you look at the data, Roger, is that the case?
Oh man, 100%. I swear we're in such a great area. So to your point, John Hill, who's one of our in our marketing group, our communications marketing analyst. And he was able to, at that time, really pull all the Claritas data, sift through it. That was kind of his background. And we are able to put personas in place, create them. Today, as that's evolved, every single address, we have 100,000 rooftops. Every single address has a tied persona to it. That persona is defined whether you are an Alice, right? Alice is the working mother who's technical, the soccer mom, and is in a rush but loves technology because they have cameras and iPads and kids and those kind of things, versus a Jacob who is, no kids but frugal and doesn't make a good living. And so now all of a sudden you go, man, which groups can withstand a $20 product on top of broadband? Who wants the outdoor Wi-Fi because they have a great backyard and they love to entertain in the Texas heat, right? But we love our barbecues. We love to go outside and entertain, but is it going to be the demographic that, man, is usually disconnects for non-pay and all they really need is connectivity at a really good price? Because that's really all they can afford. And what this does, it really does help you figure out which areas can you really do more with, provide value to those who want it and need it, because not everyone's the same. And I think that's one thing that I would say that frustrates me the most about these generalities, right? It's, you got to provide value. And what are you doing to provide value? And I don't know, there's so many different things about that. Reality is,
I think one of the things I want to just touch on, you just said, is not everyone is the same.
Yeah.
So why would we create a product built for everyone? I think that's just a fantastic thing to call out there.
No, and you're right. And I think that's why sometimes too, though, it gets very overwhelming when you go, well, what should I do? What else should I do? The pressure is on for lowering your broadband price, go compete in the market. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't have the data behind it, if you don't know who your personas are and those kind of things, your demographics, it's really hard to then put promos that you can test out in different markets with, hey, let me try this. I have 10,000 rooftops, but I know I can only get this kind of product over here. I got 10,000 rooftops on this side, but man, I can get them for $150 by adding a 2 gig with 2 Arlo cameras and outdoor Wi-Fi all bundled together, and they're going to pay for it. And that's what helps compensate the discount on the other end, where you're just trying to get penetration and you're competing. And I think if everyone, I don't know, that's why I said sometimes it's too general. There's no doubt about it. There is a market that just wants connectivity, cheap price, and broadband. And then there's a market who wants value. And I would say if we're going up against a national provider, you lean into the value because that's where we're going to win. We're going to go compete against standalone broadband no matter what. We will go compete. We will offer better service, better speeds, faster speeds, all of those things, great Wi-Fi. But we know that's a competition for broadband only. And that's why, how do you add value? Get them on another product, Mm-hmm. And it's just the way it is, it's tough.
But with a data-driven approach, it becomes less tough, because you're actually bringing that data-driven thought process to it, where you are thinking really deeply about what product is actually going to resonate with people that are living in these different areas, and the different locations that you serve. You all you're in a very interesting area, which has grown dramatically over the last, I don't know what, probably decade even, Roger.
Oh, yeah.
But, so many people moving out from other states into the Texas Hill Country and those sorts of things. So you do have a very diverse demographic. And to Zach's point earlier, why are you going to just offer the same thing to everybody when you have such a diverse group of people that you're serving?
No, absolutely. And you're right. It's, and I guess in the intro, I didn't even talk about GVTC, but yeah, right. I mean, we've been here almost 75 years, started as a telephone co-op, man. I mean, this is our community. This is where our roots are. And, now we mentioned the 4 core products. We have 100,000 rooftops we cover. And now because of data-driven insights, we created a small group called the Penetration Task Force, and really their whole goal, right? It's what can we do to move the needle in certain groups? How do we move the needle? And so we really have given them kind of just full reign to go test something, go try something. And we have a market that has about 26,000 rooftops. And it's a great test bed because there's several different competitors, their families, and, trying to see what their value is and really what works. So we do A/B testing, actually, because it's so large. We'll actually do one half of it and test out this promo, and do another half and test out this promo. If that works really well, then we'll go expand it to the other exchanges in our whole service territory that we believe wants those products. And so we've been trying to get better at it. I mean, we miss a lot.
It's a process,
right? But we've gone, man, if we can't figure out how to really use the data, be data driven, understand our demographics on our exchanges, because this market, I mean, again, extremely blessed that it was just a growth market. Everyone wanted to get out of the city, move at, and we just happened to be in a great area where we grew. And with that, a lot of different housing types, demographics, families, retirees, executives to, the mature adults, So there's a lot of different markets. And if you're going to win, you got to get pretty creative, I think. It's just not a one for all.
I know the A/B testing was right up Zach's alley. I know he got all excited when you started talking about that.
Could we? I mean, we could end on that note, but I'm a huge fan of split testing, and if you're not doing split testing, yeah, I'll be blunt, you're doing it wrong. You have to test things in your market. But as we kind of close out here on the end of the podcast here, not talking about split testing, but I'd love for you to just kind of pull out the crystal ball and hear your perspective on where you see the broadband space going over the next few years. You've had these new products out in the market for a couple of years now, going on 3. What's next? What do you see changing next?
Well, I think what I'll tell you is kind of where I see maybe what's on our horizon. I think number one is we're really focused on the multifamily. And so we know that we have to get better, right, with our bulk broadband, our bulk TV solutions, but being a security dealer as well. The really great thing, I want to be the all-in-one unified provider. I'll get you the access control. We have the platform to manage it. You want a smart unit with smart thermostats and contacts and water leak detectors and door locks where you can use pins. And I think properties today are already doing that. And I think for us, that's a path in to go, well, why go through 5 different vendors when you can just come with us and we can provide all that for you? So I kind of like that from the multifamily. Our fingers on the pulse with smart home. Again, I think that the success with Arlo kind of opens your mind to, if we can provide services for customers, what kind of value would that add? And we're testing out different platforms. We're looking at, hey, do they want a smart thermostat, a door lock, a plug? And again, if the backbone is broadband with a great Wi-Fi, what's everything else you can build around that ecosystem, right? It's that beehive of you got to build the beehive around what your core is, and I think so. I think you look at that, right? We just we're wrapping up at this quarter our entire exchange to have up to 5 gigs. The multi-gig was a great launch. It's been widely popular. I mean, better than any of us actually imagined, because we all know the need of multi-gig, right? But you know what? There's the groups that we just talked about who just want it. They can afford it. They want the latest and greatest. And you know what? It's been great. And strategically, because of that data, that's exactly where we launched it first. And it's been helping us to achieve those goals. And I would just say this. I think when I look at the Calix products with the GigaPro lines, I think there's a lot more for us to do. I think there's more for us to do on the SMB. But I think in the horizon, I think you gotta build all of this product portfolio, because you don't know when you're going to use them. And I think for us, it really is build your portfolio to what the consumers want, where we can add value, how do we differentiate, And I think a lot of those that we just kind of talked about, I think helps do that. And you kind of give that menu to whether it's a consumer, a business owner, or a property owner, developer, and you go, yeah, we can, which lever do you want? We can do it all for you. And I think that's just where we're going to have to grow from an added value perspective. And then there's some other stuff on the wholesale side, connectivity, and that kind of gets into more connectivity, data center type of things, but it's kind of a different conversation. So
yeah, that's a very different beast for sure.
No, absolutely.
Well, that's awesome perspective. Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us on the podcast today here. Gabe, I know we talked about, the financials, the data. Anything else we want to geek out on here before we wrap up? I mean, it's been a great episode so far. And again, thank you, Roger, for joining us today.
Yeah, I mean, we geeked out on some finance stuff and all that. And I do think that finance and data conversation is such an important one. And we talked a lot about the data piece, but the finance piece of this is definitely something not to be slept on, Roger. And I think it's, again, an area where you've done an absolutely fabulous job of partnering with other people in your teams to make sure that you have that strong, robust financial model so that as you're analyzing these products, you understand what's going to be successful. And for anybody who's listening to this who is thinking about launching new products into market, that's the piece that I would highly encourage you to do is go become best friends with your accounting and your finance and your CFO, whoever happens to be sitting on that side of the house.
Yeah, didn't you come from accounting? Like, are you just trying to make friends on the podcast now?
Yes, absolutely. No, yes, I did come from accounting. That's where I started my career. And it's sometimes a little lonely over there and everybody thinks you're just a nerd who doesn't want to talk to anybody. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Right. So, it's, having those business conversations is important.
No, I agree with you. And I will say this, kind of the last thing is I go back to make sure your company's in alignment, right? Mm-hmm. And for anyone out there, honestly, I think sometimes it's really easy for us to talk about, but when you don't know, you don't even know where to start. You're like, no, it sounds right. I would love to, but I have no idea how to do it. And this is kind of what the Arlo thing. And I go, man, just remember these things were meant for DIY. It wasn't really meant for the average Joe to hang. You're very well skilled technicians out there that are the most trusted they can install it. I promise. But even from the data side, right? I mean, you guys, your success team is awesome. You guys can help these companies get a start, get a foot forward. Where do you begin? And I think that's one of the also really great things, right? It's because I do think they just don't know where to start. They get it, they understand it, but they may not have, whether it's the talent, the resources, how to get there. And I would just say it's been proven. It definitely helps. We can all geek out about it a lot more and a lot longer, but if you don't know where to start, you can always reach out to us, to Calix, success team, whatever. If they just need what's my first step? And I think that sometimes it does get a little challenging when you're not quite sure where to go. So
yeah, that's fair.
I might be biased, but I think reaching out to the Calix success team is a fantastic.
Start. It is seriously. It's again, you guys do a lot to ensure our success. And I think for those that some believe in it, some don't, but I'll just say from experience, lean into it, let it help, figure out where your gaps are and see where that success team can help you get there. So, and of course, not that anyone wants to talk to us anymore, but we're definitely always, willing to help other providers out there that are struggling too. So
that's awesome, Roger. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you again for joining us on Buffering. And for those listening, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app and to share it with your friends and colleagues. And for more insights and updates, be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn.